Okay, I think we're on. I think you can see me. I hope you can see me. If you don't already know, my name is Portia A. Cosby. Um, Coming to you live from my inbox and my bed. Um, I decided to do this broadcast because I get a lot of questions in my inbox about, what it's like being a writer, the process, etc. And of course, I get a lot of questions about my characters and what's going on with the next book or the new book or an older book. So I just made it a free for all and gave readers the chance to contact me with any questions they had about me, Portia A. Cosby, the author. So here goes. The first question, it says, do you work outside of writing? If so, how do you balance work, writing, and being a mother? Whew, I barely balance it. No. Yes, I work outside of writing for 7 years, 7 or 8 years. Um, I was a certified athletic trainer. Basically, I was the person who runs out on the field when an athlete gets hurt. Field, basketball court, whatever the case it is. Um, that's what I did. So there were many nights, days, however you want to put it, where I would start work at 8 o'clock in the morning and I wouldn't be back home until sometimes 11:30 at night if there was a football game, like say it was an away football game. I don't go home until, the last injured athlete doesn't need me anymore. So there were plenty of times where, that's how I spent my days for years doing that. So, I already didn't have a lot of time on my hands. Thank God for my mother because she primarily took care of my daughter, of course, in those instances. But, um, I usually just have to sneak. I sneak time. I steal time to write. Because of course, honestly, there's no balancing when it comes to working. I have to work. Contrary to popular belief, most writers don't make money all like that. Trust me. So I have to work, and then there's no compromising on taking care of my baby. So I have to be mommy, and then I have to find time to write, and it's often a struggle because sometimes I do feel like I'm being neglectful. Um, I often have to make the conscious decision to get the computer off of my lap and put my daughter in my lap and spend the time with her. Um, and I never want her to resent the fact that mommy's a writer, period. So I hope that answers that question. The next question is, as a writer, do you have a story running in your head constantly? And if so, does it distract you from regular life? Yes, I suffer from an extreme case of creative ADD. It's so bad. I have so many characters, so many plots. There's so much going on in my head. Like, I wish I could just take a day and just write down everything that goes through my head. And I'm inspired by so many different things. So I could be thinking about one storyline and then I'll hear something and I'm like, oh, and I'm jotting things down. But yeah, right now I have so many storylines. I'm not going to give you too much information, but I have a story, a book coming, who knows when, I don't know. But it's going to involve Alexis, who's in Too Little Too Late, and Lesson Learned. She comes back on the scene, and she's in this book with Crystal from the Disgruntled Wives Club. It's an interesting mesh, and Alexis makes an appearance. It's not like she's a main character, but anyway, so that's a cool idea that I have going on. And then, of course, I have the remaining books of my series that have to come out. I have one, two, I think I'm working on three. Yeah, three screenplays that I'm working on right now. It's just, it's never ending. And then I have a couple other projects going on. So it's a lot. Um, and often it does distract me from real life. I sometimes welcome the distraction from real life. But, I catch myself at work, just like, okay, focus, focus, focus. Or even at home, there's really not a time when I'm not thinking about a character or a storyline. So, what are you going to do? Um, Next question says, how do you know to write a story that happens in a year, a weekend, or any period of time? So what period of time is good to use when writing a story, and how do I decide? Um, it's it just depends. It depends on the situation. It depends on the characters and what they're going through. I I'm trying to think of the longest period of time I had my characters in a story. I don't really remember. I try not. I don't like them to drag out over 10 years or whatever. But if it calls for it, so be it. It's my book, and I do what I want to. No, I don't think I've ever had a book that has just spanned over a week. I think my shortest book, I think mine usually span over about a year or so. But to me, I think the basis should be, give your characters the time they need to grow. If that's what your if that's what the point of the story is, you give them however long they need to get to where you need them to go. If that makes sense. Are all of your books written expressly from your imagination, or have there been situations and or circumstances that you draw from? Okay, so this is a great question. Let's start with Too Little Too Late, because as a lot of people know, Too Little Too Late is a story about a young lady who, and I'm not telling y'all too much. This is on the back of the book. She gets raped and she acquires HIV. Okay, so I'm from a small town, and I ended up hearing rumors here and there that I was Tamika, and this had happened to me. And so I love this question, so I can just I have an imagination, right? So some things, of course, I do draw from real life, or situations and circumstances. They may not be mine. They may be of friends. They may be something I heard on the news. In the case of Too Little Too Late, I was 14 when I first came up with that whole storyline. I was 14 in ninth grade, and I was watching the news. I always heard about, you hear about crimes, you hear about rapes occurring and things of that nature. For whatever reason, this one day, the story stuck with me, and I just thought about how crazy that would be, and what that young lady must be feeling. And Tamika was born. Simple as that. So, that was the situation that brought about that story. But then there's parts of me. I think at one point she was wearing like an Adidas t-shirt. People who know me, hello, Adidas. So I put a piece of me in almost every character. If you know me well, you really know which characters are more like me. But you just have to remember, my mind is crazy. You wouldn't imagine the things that go on in there. But like lesson learned, Alexis said she moonlights as a detective. That's me. Um, and everybody probably wants to know the Disgruntled Wives Club, right? Some people don't know this. I'm divorced. All right. Was that yes, that was definitely inspired by real events. But again, if you know me, you fully understand, which events were closely related to my real life, and which weren't, but I do know people who have dealt with all of the situations that the ladies deal with in that particular book. As for It's Complicated, um, that was based on an Oprah show, probably like in 2003 or 2004. That was when Vinny, Gabriella, and Kiana were born in my head, and so that storyline um, was born. Oh wait, I can't tell you too much. Some people haven't read the book, and yeah, okay, but we'll just leave it at that. It was an Oprah show that inspired me to come up with their backstories. Um, hmm. Does music influence your writing a great deal, or does the story influence the music you choose? Um, I love music, y'all. Everybody who knows me or is Facebook friends with me or whatever the case is, I'm always posting lyrics and stuff. Music is my life. Um, I will say, I guess, for Too Little Too Late, music influenced my writing because it was initially called My Life because I wrote it when My Life was out, Mary J. Blige. And I found a way to connect most of those songs to what I was writing. As time went on, it's kind of a combination. Mostly, though, my writing influences the music that I choose because you pretty much name any situation, I can almost 90% of the time, I can think of a song that fits the situation. And so, that's how I choose accordingly. So that's why I have the playlist, for It's Complicated. And if you've read the book, you can probably figure out where those needle drops, so to speak, would be for the book. Um, what else? What else? What else? Huh. Would you say that a story drains you? Yes. Good Lord, it does. Because you have to understand, when I first come up with the idea and I map it out in my head, the story's over for me. But then I have to type it out and, make it make sense and make you understand what this story is really about. So, in order for me to take you on the journey, what most people don't realize is for some writers, like for me, um, I often become the character in certain ways. And so it's very draining. It's very draining to take on this other personality, so to speak, and give yourself to this story, and then I still have to cut it off. So like, and It's Complicated, I'm Vinny, and I'm very sarcastic, and I am pretty sarcastic in real life sometimes, but I had to be this sort of cold person, or a hard person, and honestly, I'm kind of a softie, kind of. And so, I go from typing and being Vinny to helping my baby with her homework, or, cuddling with her, or, like I'm going from that to being mommy, and I'm cooking dinner and doing all this stuff. And so it can be draining just all around. What was the inspiration behind It's Complicated? So basically, Vinny, you meet Vinny as a character in Lesson Learned. Um, and you get little snippets of what her story is like. And again, like I said, Vinny, Kiana, and Gabriella were born in my head like in 2003 or 2004. I just hadn't had time to get to their story yet. And so when I introduced them all in Lesson Learned briefly, Vinny's character really stuck with me. I had plans to do something else first, like release Ain't Nothing Free, which has their story. But Vinny stuck with me, and I felt like she had more story to tell, and I wanted people to get to see her and get to know her more in depth. So that was the purpose of It's Complicated. And I think a lot of people, so far the reader's response, most people get her and they really connect with her. Um, one reader said she's like every woman, you know. So yeah, that was the inspiration behind It's Complicated. Will there be a sequel to It's Complicated? Um, it's hard to say. Like I'll tell you this, I have plans. Don't get me wrong. So next, and this is part of the next question too. Okay, so this will kind of answer this question. So the next book is Ain't Nothing Free. Ain't Nothing Free takes you back to like 1993 when the ladies are actually young ladies and they're in high school at Lakeside Prep. So some of you all know what Lakeside Prep is and you know what went down. So you get to be in there with them and like see how they were all introduced to it and all that stuff. So that's next. And then I have to do a story for Gabriella. So Gabriella's going to have her own. Kiana has a book that comes out, and her story's crazy. Whew. So I don't know if her story's going to come first or Gabriella's, but either way, Vinny will be in those. So I don't know if I'm going to actually end up doing a sequel to It's Complicated, but you will definitely see Vinny again and see what's going on with her and her life. Try not to give too much information away for those who haven't read it yet. Have you ever thought about your books being movies? Yes, of course. The whole purpose, the whole reason I started writing and wrote my first novel, Too Little Too Late, is because when I wrote it, whatever it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be like a screenplay in ninth grade. It was a movie in my head. You know, all of my books are actually movies in my head. I'm a visual person, so when I found the stuff I had written from ninth grade, I found that the summer before my senior year in college, and I loved the story. I still felt like it was a powerful message and it needed to be told. I just knew that I couldn't just come up with millions of dollars and make a movie. And so I said, well, what if I write a book? And so Too Little Too Late was born. You know, I knew I couldn't call it my life because, Lord, people already thought, you know, it was about me. So let me put my life on this, you know, it would have been crazy. So, yeah, Too Little Too Late is still, I still want to be a movie. In fact, mind you, this is my senior year in college when I decided to write it as a book. I completed it in I think like 7 or 8 months. In that time, I decided I wanted to go to film school. I was in school for kinesiology, and which is pretty much like, you know, kind of sports medicine deal. And yeah, I researched schools, and after I graduated, I ended up at Full Sail University in the film program. It was a 13-month program, and yeah, that was the reason I went to film school, because of Too Little Too Late. So yeah, I do see that one as a movie. I actually completed the screenplay for the Disgruntled Wives Club last year. So I'm gonna get back to shopping that around. I've had a few eyes on it, and you know, I've had some good feedback. So wish me luck. That's all the questions, but my Facebook keeps beeping, and I don't know if people are asking other questions. So I think we still have time, unless y'all bored with me. Okay, here's one. Do you write from beginning, middle, or end, or do different pages and then put it together? Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I do. The only book I wrote straight through was Too Little Too Late. I call that book magical. And I think it's because, you know, I was new at this thing. I was like, let me see if I can write a book. And I did. That was the only book I wrote by hand. I'll never do that again. But yeah, I wrote with a mechanical pencil, and I used 4 notebooks. I still have those notebooks somewhere because that was some work. And I did not type it as I went along. So Yeah. Going back to type that was like carpal tunnel waiting to happen. But I wrote that one completely straight through, no problems, and I haven't done it since. I think for lesson learned, I started it off, of course, in order. I probably got through the first 3 or 4 chapters, and then I think I jumped to maybe I don't think it was necessarily the last chapter, but it was like the second to last chapter. Like, I usually know where my stories are going to go. Now, my characters trick me every now and then, and they change up a few things, but I do know where I'm going, initially. So I just go with it, whatever I'm feeling, especially if I have multiple characters and if I'm writing in first person for them. Sometimes I wasn't feeling like Alexis. I was feeling like Tiffany. And so I would write for Tiffany in that particular situation for lesson learned. The same thing with the Disgruntled Wives Club. It's 3 different characters. So I hopped around. I hopped around. Was this complicated? For the most part, yeah, for the most part, I wrote that straight through. But I did. There were moments where I, would be like, oh, they got to say this, and I would just, write some dialogue, and then I would end up writing a little bit more. Or if if you all follow my videos from before, I had the infamous strip club scene. One day I just felt like sending them to the strip club, and so I wrote the strip club chapter. um, but yeah, that was it. There's really sometimes there's a method to my madness. Most times there's not. I just go with what feels good. I'm an author who just feels. What is this? Hold on. I think I might have another question. Um, Sorry, y'all. Oh, y'all see me. Hey. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it. No more questions. But I will say this, it's complicated. It's out. So get it. Um, the feedback has been phenomenal. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful for everyone's support, and I'm loving the reactions that I get at the certain chapters, and I love that ultimately readers have been happy with Vinny and her story. So please stay tuned for more. Spread the word. Leave reviews, please. Um, and yeah, I will be doing a chat solely for It's Complicated. I'm thinking next week I have to get with my special chat moderator extraordinaire and see when she's busy. I mean, when she's available. Um, and then we'll go from there. So I will keep everyone posted on that, of course, on Facebook or whatever. And keep the questions coming in the inbox because I will be doing this every now and then. This was fun. I hope I answered all your questions to the best of my abilities. And y'all be good. Bye.